CNN Partner Hotels. Connected to your world.
I am Nigerian by blood, British by birth, and American by residence. It is important to me that those same strands of inclusivity that flow through me are mirrored in the stories that we tell. One World is a place where Africa has an equal seat at the global table alongside Europe, the Americas, and Asia. Every continent has a voice, and where everyone watching has a stake in the global conversation.
One World with Zain Asher, tonight on CNN.
I'm Ben Wiedemann in Ukraine, and this is CNN.
CNN Tonight with Don Lemon starts right now.
Sarah Seidner, thank you very much. I appreciate that. A big show to get to, and I'm going to do it right now. This is Don Lemon Tonight, and this is, I can't tell you how important this is, okay? So pay attention to me, please. And this isn't something that we can both sides. The truth is, will we as a country moving forward, will we continue to operate in truth? Are we going to continue to be the place where the truth matters? Or will we fall to the lies? Will we succumb to the biggest lie of them all? You know the one I'm talking about. That is the lie of a stolen election, of election fraud. That's the significance of what tomorrow is all about. And it is not hyperbole. It's not hyperbolic to say that the January 6th hearings, that are just hours away, by the way, and what comes out of them will be an indication of whether we can keep our very fragile democracy right now. It is hanging by a thread, or not, whether we can keep it or not. Are you paying attention? You should, because tomorrow we will listen to testimony live from 3 Republicans who know exactly how far the former president was willing to go to try to overturn our free and fair election.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
It's outrageous, and everyone knows it. This is not just about what happened more than a year ago. It's about what's happening right now, and it is scary, and it is dangerous, it is hateful, and it can cost lives. It did on January 6th, right? The Republican Party in the state of Texas, in its official party platform, is now claiming that Joe Biden was not legitimately elected. That is a lie. And we have seen with our own eyes just how dangerous that lie is. We saw it with our own eyes on January 6th when rioters stormed the seat of our democracy. We're seeing it now with this awful letter from Adam Kinzinger. He says that he got it in the mail, threatening to execute him, his wife, and their baby.
I don't worry, but now that I have a wife and kids, of course, it's a little different. There are people that, there is violence in the future, I'm going to tell you. And until we get a grip on telling people the truth, we can't expect any differently.
We are also seeing it with leading candidates for the GOP Senate nomination in Missouri, Eric Greitens, releasing a video of him play acting, hunting rhinos, the right's favorite insult for what they call Republicans in name only. It is so awful, and it is so dangerous, and it's so frightening that we're not showing you the video. Maybe we should, I don't know, but it's terrible. We're not going to play into his hands. But calling for some members of his own party to be hunted, it's worse than a sick joke. As I said, it's dangerous. But lies are baked into the GOP right now. That is just the truth. It's not just the election lies. Texas Republicans also rebuking and booing one of their own, Senator John Cornyn, for working on bipartisan gun legislation. That in a state that just buried 19 little kids and 2 teachers shot to death in their classrooms. Those are Republicans booing Republicans. Those are Republicans, according to Adam Kinzinger, threatening to kill him, to harm him and his family. So they're calling for the repeal of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Dangerous. the landmark legislation that protects the rights to vote for people who look like me and people who fought and died for that right, people who look like me. They're referring to homosexuality, again, in their official party platform as, and I'm quoting here, an abnormal lifestyle choice. An abnormal lifestyle choice. Have we gone back to the 50s here? I'm here to tell you there is nothing abnormal about being who you are and loving who you are and being who God made you to be. And all this is why we are where we are today. This is why we're here today, with a minority party bowing to the extremes of the party, who will resort to violence to get what they want, which is power. So I want to bring in now CNN senior justice correspondent Evan Perez, CNN senior legal analyst Jennifer Rogers. I appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much. Good evening to you. Evan, you start first. Another big day on Capitol Hill tomorrow. The January 6th committee says that we're going to hear evidence that Trump had direct involvement in that fake elector scheme. Tell us more about what we can expect.
That's right, Don. I think what the committee, very importantly, is going to try to do tomorrow is to connect the pressure campaign that these officials in the state of Georgia, in Arizona, personally withstood from the former president and his allies, and how that goes from not only trying to obviously send these fake electors that would have kept the former president in power, but also how that perpetuated this idea that there was widespread fraud, which brought those crowds to the Capitol on January 6th and led to the violence. That's the connection they're trying to make. They're trying to pull all of this together and, again, bring it right to the former president and the fact that he was personally involved, not only in that phone call that he made that you played a part of to the Georgia state officials, but also that he called and tried to pressure people, and the White House officials tried to pressure people in Arizona to try to do the same.
Jennifer Rogers, how do you think that the committee will show this was a widespread coordinated plot? Do you think they'll be able to do that, to make that case?
I hope so, Don. You know, this is a piece of the puzzle that we haven't heard that much about publicly, the fraudulent slates of electors. So there are a lot of people here. There are multiple people in 7 different states who sent in these fake slates of electors. So I'm hoping that the committee has spoken to a lot of those people and we'll hear from a lot of them, because they're going to want to know not only what did you do, how did you get organized, how did you get together, what was said amongst you, the 7 or 10 or how many of them, the fake electors there were, but also who told you to do that, who's coordinating it. I mean, it's obviously not a coincidence that 7 groups of people in 7 different states that Joe Biden won and that Donald Trump wanted to flip did the same thing at the same time. So the question is, who was pulling those strings? And interestingly too, Don, I think that DOJ, who we know is already investigating this part of the scheme, might look to make some cooperating witnesses here, because these folks, these people who signed on to these fake slates of electors, they're prominent in their community. Some of them are public officials themselves. They don't want to go to prison. And this was a pretty clearly illegal scheme, even when you just take it in isolation. So I think DOJ has a real opportunity here to bring some of those people in to get at the higher ups who are really running the show.
So a clearly illegal scheme, you said, even if you take it in isolation. So what does that mean for everything else that's going to happen? How do you take that into account and then, you know, bring it around to, well, what the president did and what others around him did and what other lawmakers may have done, that may be clearly illegal as well. Do you understand my question, Jennifer?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you have a potentially illegal scheme happening in at least 5 of these 7 states. 2 of the states had hedging language that makes it not so clear. But you have a scheme that involves certainly these electors who signed this false form that they sent to the federal government and the people who asked them to do it, knowing that it was false. Then you start to say, okay, but we of course know that this is just one of this multi-pronged plan that President Trump and his supporters had to keep him in power. So then you're saying, okay, it could be a standalone crime, probably in 5 of these 7 states and on the federal level. But then you're also looking at it being one piece of this broader conspiracy that the Select Committee is making the case for. So I think they can go at it in these couple of different ways. And DOJ, we know, is investigating the isolated piece, and I hope is also fitting it into the broader puzzle in a bigger investigation.
Also, Jennifer, let me just get your take on Arizona Republican Rusty Bowers. He's scheduled to testify. He says that Trump asked him to directly replace the electors in the state and that he refused. He said that he wasn't going to do anything illegal. What will testimony that Trump was directly involved mean for Trump?
Well, it really depends what it is. You really have to hear the language there. But if the testimony is, he said to me, I want you to replace the slate of electors. And I said, Mr. President, I'm sorry, I can't do that. It's illegal. And he said, I want you to do it anyway. Then you're talking about knowledge on behalf of the former president that he was asking for something illegal. That would be huge, obviously, when you're looking at potentially charging him. But of course, you really do have to parse exactly what was said to see what that language is and what charges it might support.
Evan, let's talk about how low this has gone and how dangerous it has gone. And quite frankly, some of the lawmakers around the country now and election workers are dealing with, many journalists dealt with over the Trump administration, these death threats from people, sending, pipe bombs or threatening to different news stations and threatening to kill reporters and what have you. And now election workers are dealing with the same crap. We're also getting to hear from a Georgia election worker who received death threats after false election fraud allegations. Talk to me about what this is about.
Right. Well, Don, I think, look, we've heard some of the stories of some of these other officials. We've not heard from this, at this level. And I think this is actually one of the most important parts of this. And this is, her name is Wandrea Shea Moss, and she submitted testimony. We have some of her testimony. I'll read you just a part of it. But importantly, what she was accused of was being part of this fake ballot scheme that Trump went on television, talked about. And I'll read you just a part of what she says. She says, I have to live with these lies every single day. Before December 2020, I was never scared of people knowing my name. She goes on to talk about the threats that she, her family, her son, her grandmother, Don, have faced as a result of being accused falsely of being part of a vote fraud scheme. And I'll read just another part of it in which she says, I didn't realize how much I loved my job until it was taken away from me by a few people who decided that their lie was more important than my life. I think those are incredibly powerful words from somebody. Again, these are people we depend on to run our elections around the country. They're facing these types of threats simply because of this falsehood that has been propagated by the former president, by some of his supporters, and to this day, right? These are the people who are suffering the consequences, not only powerful people like Adam Kinzinger and some of these state officials that have the protection of the state police. These are like, average folks who are on the front lines and run our elections every year, every couple of years. And they're the ones who are bearing the brunt of this.
You are right. Those are powerful words. They've decided that their lives are more important than my life. I don't know if you can put it any better than that. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Evan. I appreciate that. Joining me now is the former U.S. Senator and former Defense Secretary William Cohen. Thank you, Secretary. I appreciate you joining us. I mean, that really hit home to hear that election worker say that. I mean, we are teetering by a thread. What comes out of these hearings, I think it's really important to show the direction of this country. Am I wrong with that?
We have become a very violent country. When you have extreme rhetoric, when you have violent rhetoric, inevitably that leads to acts of violence. And so we're seeing this take place on a regular basis now. I think we have to ask ourselves as a country, where are we going? You cannot go to a city council meeting, a school board meeting, a legislative meeting, the governor office. You can't go. The Supreme Court of the United States, a justice recently was threatened with his life and that of his family. So when do we start saying enough and no more? And I mean, not only political leadership. I want to know why every Republican in the Senate is not standing up and condemning that ad that you have refused rightly to run. Why are they not condemning that and saying this is way over the top, this is violent, you're encouraging violence? And then I want to ask the corporate leaders of this country, Why are you pouring money into the candidacies of people who are threatening to undermine the institutions of this country? So we
Can
need
you say that
leadership.
one more time, please? Can you please say that again? Because I think that is the crux of it. There are too many people who are falling. It is about money for the corporations. It is about power for the politicians. Ultimately, it's about money and power. Please speak on that,
Yes.
Secretary.
Well, we saw that example of that video that's running, and then a request, who wants to join in the hunt? Send money, buy a permit. And so it's a fundraising activity. What we have to ask is the corporate leaders of this country, who now are treated as individual citizens, they have a right to vote, so to speak, according to the Supreme Court. We have to ask the corporate leaders, you are putting money, thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars, into campaigns on candidates who do not represent the best of this country, who promote violence, who promote lies and dishonesty and dishonorable activity. You have to be held accountable. So when people see that companies are contributing to these candidates, they ought to respond at the pocketbook level. They ought to vote with their feet and with their pocketbooks and move away from those companies and make them pay a penalty, because they are in fact voting to put people in power who will write laws which advantage them to the great detriment of the health, welfare, and safety of the American people.
You know, the former president's team tried to steal the election. What is to stop that from happening again?
The only thing that will stop that from happening is the American people. Many of us knew from the beginning that Mr. Trump was unfit for that office, that he demonstrated it time and time again. And now he's doing it in our faces once more, doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down, to say, I am going to change the way this country functions. I don't believe in the rule of law. I believe in the power of ruling. And that's what's happened to the Republican Party. It's not the party of Lincoln. It's more like the party of Putin, namely that one person gets to change the institutions and tells people what the laws are going to be, because he is going to write those laws. So I'm surprised that not more Republicans are willing to step forward. They were quick to step forward, as they should have, when a threat was made against a Supreme Court justice and his family. They were quick to call that we've got to protect him. Well, yes, speak up now when you have members in your own party who are carrying out ads that are designed to inflame the politics of this country. You imagine if that was a black man with a shotgun with all of those shells loaded by his side and in the gun, walk into a house and say, I'm going to kill some Republicans because I disagree with their policies. How long do you think before the Secret Service or the FBI were breaking down his door? Now, it's not just a matter of free speech. They're saying, well, First Amendment right, there's no harm done. No, there is harm being done when we allow that to take place without condemnation. And so I think we have an obligation, everybody, Republicans and Democrats, whether it happens on the left with Antifa, anybody who advocates violence ought to be disqualified from office. And I think that it's incumbent on us, the American people, to see that happens.
Secretary Cohen, thank you, sir. I appreciate what you said, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right.
Up next, he was an out gay member of the committee that wrote the hateful Texas GOP platform. This is what he says.
This is meant to be insulting language. It does nothing for policy. It does nothing to move us forward. And honestly, it's a little insulting to drop this on this body right after you say we don't have a lot of time to discuss it.
He's going to join me live next.
With Bitcoin, not only do we have the best monetary asset in human history, we have the best monetary network in human history. Bitcoin solved a lot of the monetary functions that we know as very expensive with cryptography and with math. And so I can escrow a bearer instrument in Bitcoin. It's worth the same amount in Chicago as it is in London, as it is in Nigeria, as it is in Argentina, and I can zip it around the world instantly and for free. What we can do is take your dollars and escrow them around the world over the Bitcoin network. So think about this. What if I wanted to send money from Chicago to London? What we can do is take dollars out of your bank account, turn it into Bitcoin, zip that value to London instantly and for free. You blink, you'd miss it. It goes so fast and it costs nothing. And then we turn it back into British pounds. That's the innovation, and that's how we use Bitcoin, the monetary network.
He's interviewed 5 U.S. presidents, authored 7 books, and has an independent voice that resonates.
What happened to when we were united against a common enemy?
He's raw, unique, and one of America's most important talk show hosts. Watch Smerconish, Saturday on CNN.
The problem with plastic is that it's indestructible. Nut-pla packaging can break down in a home compost extremely fast, just like an apple or just like an orange. A lot of people were surprised that seaweed could be turned into a packaging material. We chose seaweed because it has a lot of sustainable credentials. It doesn't use fresh water or fertilizer to grow. It just grows on its own in the sea without human intervention. And on top of that, when it grows, it sequesters carbon. We partnered for the London Marathon with Lucozade. They were using plastic bottles and cups, and they were really keen to reduce the amount of waste that is created at these events. At the end of the event, it was brilliant that the trucks that clean the streets and usually have to stop at each station to pick up all of that plastic, they just drove by our station. There was nothing to pick up, so it was really incredible, the feeling that we had delivered hydration without the plastic. Nature has all of the solutions. We just have to continue getting our inspiration from it. Different plants, different trees, different vegetables. This is what the future looks like. We need to use more of other natural materials. And I think through this diversity, we can really solve this problem. And I'm really hopeful that we will.
We're here now at the home of one of the FSB team, and my name's Clarissa Ward. I work for CNN. Was it your team that poisoned Navalny?
It's just been a chaotic scene here. People are so exhausted. Just gonna help her carry this bag. We were just in the hospital. It was shocking. Why do you think India has been hit so badly? Scores of Taliban fighters, and just behind us, the U.S. Embassy.
Why does a small group of women asking for their right to be educated threaten you so much?
Raise your hand if you love school.
I'm the one who has to look them in the eye. Can I have your word? These people are depending on you.
You can hear gunshots every couple minutes. And now they're pressing in. They want desperately to tell their story.
So I want you to listen to this interview. I think that you'll learn a lot, and I think it's important to hear the next voice that we're going to have on. He's a member of the Republican Party. He's a gay Republican, as a matter of fact, from Texas. The Republican Party of Texas moving further to the extreme right at its convention this weekend. The party approving resolutions for its platform that dig in on the big lie that the then President Trump won the 2020 election. He did not. Among the approved measures, the Texas GOP falsely says that President Joe Biden was not legitimately elected. The platform condemns any Second Amendment restrictions and rebukes the 10 GOP senators backing the bipartisan gun bill in Washington, even after the deadly school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. There's anti-gay language also included in the platform, the party declaring homosexuality as, quote, abnormal and abnormal lifestyle choice. There's also a call to repeal the 1965 Voting Rights Act. So let's talk to a Republican who was at the convention, who disagrees with some of the approved measures. Joining me now is Jason Vaughn, a member of the Platform Committee for the Republican Party of Texas. Jason, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
I'm happy to be here, and I'm glad after the convention was over, I saw you were celebrating Juneteenth yesterday, and I'm glad to be coming to you from the home of Emancipation Park here in Houston.
Thank you very much. So listen, let's get to it. The Texas GOP says that President Biden, was not legitimately elected. We know that is not true. Do you believe that Joe Biden is the legitimately elected president of the United States?
I know that I was very much against this resolution. Here's my challenge. There's some shady things, in my opinion, that happened with the election. Here in Harris County, just in this last election, there were 10,000 ballots lost. But I think this continuing stop the steal language that the Republicans have been pushing in many places is going to discourage our members, our voters, from going out to vote. Why vote if the election was stolen? So there's actually the last sentence in there that says, if you believe it was stolen, go work harder. Go do the work and actually get more people out to vote. That's the important thing.
I appreciate that, Jason. But my question was, do you believe that Joe Biden is the legitimately elected president of the United States?
Based on the evidence I have, yes.
Okay. Thank you for answering that. Because even the former Attorney General Bill Barr, Trump's own Attorney General, called the fraud claims BS, and he said this in we saw his testimony in the January 6th committee. I want to watch this just to reiterate this, and then we'll move on and talk about other things, but watch this.
The claims of fraud were bullshit.
He was the top-ranking Republican, one of the top-ranking Republicans and advisors to the former president of the United States, and he also agrees that it was BS. So you agree Joe Biden, legitimately elected president of the United States, and you have seen no evidence that there was enough voter fraud to overturn the election?
Enough voter fraud being the key phrase. Yes, there were definitely shenanigans. There were things going on. And I think that part of what we have to discuss is that since 2016, we have lost a lot of faith in the institutions. You saw that Democrats were claiming Russia helped Trump steal the election, even back then. So neither side actually trusts our election process. That's a problem.
But Jason, that's just not true. That's not the same thing. To say to question some election that there's anomalies in every single election. So to put Democrats and Republicans on the same level with this, it's just not true. It's a false equivalence.
If for 4 years they did say that Russia had helped Trump steal the election. So I don't know why we're so surprised that Republicans doubt this election. Now, I don't think they should.
Jason, let me just give you some facts, and then I'll let you respond. U.S. intelligence agencies found that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to benefit Trump. That's U.S. intelligence agencies. A 2020 bipartisan Senate report also found that Russia interfered with and tried to influence the election, and Democrats in no way went to the lengths that Republicans did by spreading election lies, by having an insurrection at the Capitol. Democrats did not attack the Capitol. Do you see what I'm getting at? It is not the same thing.
I am not saying it's the same. I am saying that we have distrust on both sides, and we have to start figuring out. We have to have some faith in our institutions if we are going to restore that. And
but
it
you
can't just
understand that
be
distrust, that one side, hold on, you understand that one side, the distrust is based on actual facts. On the other side, the distrust is not based in reality, and the reason that there is distrust is because the person at the top helped to spread, lit the match to ignite the distrust.
Again, I'm in Harris County. We have had massive election issues. And so to say there was nothing to say that people should distrust the election is crazy. I will absolutely say I do not believe the election was stolen. I will say that I believe there is, but I will not say that there was nothing to distrust.
Okay, fair enough, Jason. Thank you. Okay, so listen, the platform also included a section calling homosexuality an abnormal lifestyle choice. You are an out gay committee member. You voted against it, including that, right, and called it disrespectful. So why did the Texas GOP approve this plank for the platform?
I think there got to be a lot of confusion on the floor. If you look at the way the body voted versus the way the committee voted, the committee was very close. It was 17-14. If we'd have flipped 2 votes, that would not have gone in there. And look, I understand my party does not believe in gay marriage. That's a policy issue we can debate. The problem with this language was it was insulting, and it is distracted from so many other planks that I do care about. If you listen to the debate on the floor of the convention, you'll see that right after this was passed, this abnormal gay guy got up to the mic and actually was able to suspend the rules and put in extremely important information on a plank on protecting fragile children, making sure they have home care, community-based care. And that's something that Republicans should be talking about, uniting under. There are 275 planks, and the only ones we're talking about 4 of them that are complete and utter distractions that make, for most of them, I disagree with.
Okay, I ask you this, and listen, I'm caveat because I don't, this is a legitimate question. I'm not saying that you cannot be a gay Republican. So the question would be is if you're a gay man, they're calling you abnormal, then why are you a member of the Republican Party?
I'm a member because I get this question a lot. First, let me say, I'm not a member of the Republican Party because I want to be liked. I'm a member of the Republican Party because I want to get stuff done. And that's one of the closest places to do it. I absolutely believe in Harvey Milk's philosophy of the more gay people they know, the more likely they are to change. I show up time and time again, and there's 80, 90, 95% of the policies that I care about. I was on the platform committee. You understand there's 1 in 31 people that are making up those platforms. There's 1 in 30 that in the entire state. I was unanimously elected again. The chairman of the party, Matt Rinaldi, is a close friend of mine. The vice chair is a close friend. I know all of these people. I go in there. Now, yes, do we disagree on policy? Do we have some very heated rhetoric? Do I think this was a dumb, idiotic move that distracts us from issues like property tax and bail reform?
It's also
and other
hateful,
things
Jason. It's also hateful. To say that call someone abnormal is hateful.
And you heard me call it out. You heard me. You played it earlier. You heard me call this out. It was hateful. It was disrespectful. It should have never happened. It did not go through the subcommittee. It did not come up from one of our other conventions. It did not go through the temporary committee. It was thrown in at the last minute. And here's the challenge we face. There's a lot of Republicans that did not want to feel like they were softening the language with everything going on, with all of the drag shows for kids and all of the other stuff. They do not want to feel like we're in any way softening that. Now, I disagree with that. I am passionately, I am a proud gay man. I am openly out. I am against all of those things. I do not think there should be sexual drag shows for children. And I think those are hurting a lot of those things, but I think that's part of what they're reacting to. And we've got to balance this out. There is balance. We don't have to always be reactive to everything. This was a hateful and appropriate move, and I really disagree with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jason, listen, I think it's important. Part of your answer is what you said, that you want to, I think you said you want to, look, I don't want to put words in your mouth, that you want to be able to bring about change within your own party. And I think it's important. That's why, for similar reasons, I think it's important for you to be on here, because I would like to get to understand why you are a member of the Republican Party and why you are doing what you're doing. So, that said.
Can I give you one clear reason?
Sure.
Monday night, week ago, honestly, right around now, it's been almost exactly a week. My neighbor, a couple doors down in my apartment complex, 9 years old, 9, shot in the head, domestic disturbance. The man was out on 5 bonds, one of them at least felony bonds. It's insane what's happening with the Democrat judges here in Harris County. Now, I know that's not everywhere. I can only speak to what I know here. That is a shameful situation, and I will never vote for one of them. Yes, they hate me, but I'm alive, and I do not want to die.
I understand what you're saying. Listen, yes, but there are people who will say, well, why don't you join the Democratic Party to try to change the Democrats to have, judges who are more in favor of stronger policing? Because that's kind of what you're saying, that the reason that you're a member of the Republican Party is because you want to change minds and hearts. Well, why don't you go on the Democratic side and try to change minds and hearts? I'm just saying, I'm not saying that you should do it.
I understand.
But it's the same logic. You understand what I'm saying? You could do it at either party, and you actually, maybe you might have more of a chance in the Democratic Party for people who don't think that you're abnormal.
Well, I've got about a 10 to 15% agreement with Democrats on certain issues, right? I can change the 10% for Republicans, or I can change the 90% for Democrats. There's a big difference there in what I would actually need to change, and it's just. Look, I'm a proud pro-life man. That is one of my passions. I believe in lower property taxes. I believe in bail reform. I believe that there's so many things.
That's why you're a conservative, and I understand that. Yeah, I get that. The other part, many people just don't get it. And look, as long as you'll come in and you'll be honest with me and you'll tell me the truth, and you're not an election denier, you're not going to tell me that it's not raining outside when it is, then I'll have you on and we can debate the issues. But if you're going to come on and you're not going to live in reality, I don't think we should be giving a platform.
I understand that. I'm a very nuanced person, which is not always great for media or politics. So, but I appreciate you having me on for that.
Jason, thank you. And please come back. Be well. Good luck. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Don.
CNN political commentator Scott Jennings is here. So is Washington Post columnist Max Boot. And I've got to ask, what does a move like this in Texas mean for Republicans all across the country? We're going to talk about that right after this.
What do you see when you look at the surface? Just that, the surface. But dive deeper and new possibilities emerge. Essential intelligence from S&P Global takes you here, providing the data, risk assessment, and workflow solutions you need to plumb the wonders beneath. A better, more prosperous future awaits. It's yours for the seeking. S&P Global. Seek and prosper.
I'm Bill Weir in Greenland, and this is CNN.
These troops, they are Russian. I've spoken to the commander. He said they are now in control. Over that way. It's a secret location. They're going to fire on Russian forces. There has been a ferocious battle here. There's unexploded grenades everywhere. We're being shown the powerful American guns, giving them an edge.
You downplayed the US intelligence assessment. Do you now regret that?
I'm in Kiev right now, and it is under attack, Mr. Lavrov, from Russian forces. I'm being told by our security that we need to get our flak jackets on. No matter where you are in this country, lives are being shattered. There are thousands streaming out. It is at least a chance to save their own lives. Matthew Chance, CNN.
Connect the World with Becky Anderson.
It all starts here. Changing, fighting, creating, connecting. Real news that shapes our world. Getting perspective on this region from this region. Places that many of us know, but few of us get to see. It all starts here. And that's why we're here, bringing you the world from our Middle Eastern hub.
Connect the World with Becky Anderson. Today on CNN.
This is CNN. More people get their news from CNN than any other news source.
So Trump's election lie is becoming an official part of the Texas GOP platform. There's much to discuss now. CNN political commentator Scott Jennings, Washington Post columnist Max Boot. Gentlemen, good evening. Good to see both of you. Max, first, give me your reaction to what you just heard from Jason Vaughn.
Well, I think this is the insanity that you're seeing sweep across the Republican Party. And, you might say that the state of Texas is kind of like America, only more so. And I would say the Republican Party in Texas is like the Republican Party in the rest of the country, only more so. I mean, they're not only rejecting the outcome of the 2020 election, which unfortunately is a very widespread Republican position these days, but they're also rejecting the 1965 Voting Rights Act. They're rejecting homosexuality as a quote unquote abnormal lifestyle. They booed Senator John Cornyn for entertaining even a very mild bipartisan measure dealing with gun safety. Representative Dan Crenshaw was accosted and abused by Texas Republicans over the weekend who were calling him Eye Patch McCain. I mean, this is just one insanity after another, but unfortunately, I feel like this is where the Republican Party is headed. And this is kind of a snapshot in time of a party that is becoming increasingly extremist, increasingly racist, authoritarian, divorced from reality, and frankly, flirting with violence. It's a very, very scary picture of what a party that I once belonged to has now become.
Scott, this isn't coming from, just a few extreme voices. I mean, the lie about the election, Trump's lie, the big lie, is about to become the official platform of the Texas GOP. That's pretty dangerous.
Well, I mean, if you've seen any polling in Republican primaries this year, which I have, you wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it is a majority opinion of rank and file Republicans that at a minimum, they think what your previous guest thought, which was there were at a minimum some kind of shenanigans. And so you get people saying that. It's become doctrinaire in the party. I mean, obviously, it's one of Trump's motivating issues. I mean, if he runs for re-election, this is going to be his platform, relitigating 2020. I wasn't surprised they did it. This platform is ridiculous, and it's obviously a bunch of cranks and crackpots got together and had a Festivus, an airing of grievances this weekend. It's better for this party to look forward, and it's better for this party to be focused on forward-looking issues. They chose not to do that, and it's unfortunate.
Scott and Max, stay with me. We've got a lot to talk about. This video was posted by a Republican candidate where he brandishes a gun. He tells his supporters to hunt rhinos. We're just showing you a freeze frame of it because it's really just outrageous. We're going to talk about that next.
I'm Dr. Sanjay Gupta in New York, and this is CNN.
Sex trafficking is happening in all hotels, in all brands, at all levels. My name is Lori Cohen. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of ECPAT USA, in Brooklyn, New York. In our research, we recognized that so much of the child sex trafficking was happening in hotels because these were anonymous locations and traffickers felt that there was very low risk in being detected. In February of 2020, ECPAT USA partnered with Marriott International and with the American Hotel and Lodging Association to launch a free online training for people working in the hotel and hospitality industry. It was just before the pandemic, and we thought the timing was going to be terrible. But when we counted the numbers, 15 months into the pandemic, we were stunned to see that over 500,000 members of the hotel industry had taken the online training. And so even though it's an uncomfortable topic, there's a recognition that it's absolutely essential to protect children. It's the right thing to do, and it's also good for their bottom line.
I'm James Roby. I'm the Global Head of Environmental Sustainability at Capgemini. People often ask, why should businesses care about sustainability? Well, first of all, quite frankly, an unsustainable pathway is not going to be good for any business. Businesses are reliant on having consumers that will buy from them. They're reliant on having employees who want to work for them. Increasingly, all the stakeholders of the business are asking difficult questions. So businesses which aren't taking sustainability seriously essentially are going to be out of business. But in reality, it's never too late to start. A great way to start is by trying to understand your own impacts as an organisation, perhaps calculate your carbon footprint. Ultimately, we need everybody on this journey, so why not start today?
Sunday on CNN. In a year full of challenges, let's salute those using their platforms for good.
It's just so needed, and we have a lot more to do.
Join us as we shine a light on some familiar faces.
I have gotten a front row seat to what heroism is.
Turning words into action.
It makes us human.
If we still care, there is hope.
CNN Heroes Salutes, hosted by Aaron Burnett. Sunday.
So you've got to pay attention to this one, all right? Missouri's former governor, current Republican Senate candidate, calling on voters to take down members of his own party. Eric Greitens' campaign ad shows him holding what appears to be a long gun while he talks about hunting rhinos or Republicans in name only. It also shows him barging into a house with a tactical unit. And the ad ends with this message: rhino hunting permit, no bagging limit, no tagging limit. It's also worth noting that Greitens is facing allegations of sexual misconduct, child abuse, and blackmail, but he denies them. Scott Jennings and Max Boot are back with me. Okay, so I'm going to get what you guys think about this. Max, Greitens is a top contender in the Senate race. Would he have put out this ad if he didn't think that it was a winning message?
Clearly, he does think it's a winning message, and he knows the formula, which is to say something outrageous and horrific and then get blowback from the mainstream world, from the media, from Democrats. And then he becomes a hero to the MAGA hordes by claiming that they're trying to censor him and he's a brave speaker of the truth. It's this tedious carnival act, but it's a very dangerous act, because what Greitens is doing is he is encouraging violence. We already have more gun violence than any other country in the world. We have more guns than any other country in the world. Republicans are preventing us from passing any kind of sensible gun safety legislation. We can't ban assault weapons. We can't impose even a 21-year-old age limit to buy assault weapons. But on top of that, Republicans have made a fetish of guns. They have this gun cult where almost every single Republican campaign ad these days has to have a gun in it. And of course, and that loses its shock value. And so Greitens is taking it up another notch by actually miming this act of killing his Republican opponents, whoever they are. But sadly, what I see is that the mainstream Republican Party, to the extent that there is a mainstream, is cowed by the gun lobby. They are cowed by the gun nuts. They will not stand up to the inciters of hatred and violence. And that is ultimately more of a problem than you can certainly have extremists and very bad people like Eric Greitens or the people who are writing the Texas Party platform. But the fundamental problem is there are no grown-ups left in the Republican Party who will stand up for moderation and decency.
You know, Scott, the Missouri Fraternal Order of Police is denouncing that Greitens ad, but we haven't heard anything from the RNC or Republican leadership. Why aren't they condemning this and making it, you know, that clear that violence will not be tolerated?
Yeah, I don't know. I do know this, that the Republican leadership at large is freaked out about the possibility that Greitens will become the nominee in Missouri. There's widespread belief that if he gets the nomination, which, by the way, is possible because there's so many candidates, he can get the nomination with a low number of votes. And if he gets it, this Senate race goes on the board. And if we nominate Greitens in Missouri, the Republicans will get what they deserve, which is a race that we could easily lose because we'll have nominated someone who's not worthy of our party's nomination. He's not worthy of a seat in the United States Senate, and we got to stop him. So this is one of those races, Don. This is not unlike the 2016 Republican primary for president, where fragmentation helps a candidate who does the most extreme thing, and he's doing the most extreme thing. It's bad for the party.
Let me ask you before I let you go. You're a smart man. I asked you, I said, you know, why aren't they saying anything? I mean, why don't you think they're saying anything? Even if you're not sure, you haven't heard from them, but you must have some idea.
Well, I think there's a question of strategy in this race, to be honest with you, Don, because I think what Max said is not incorrect, that candidates like this do these sorts of things in an effort to elicit pushback from the media or pushback from the so-called party leaders or establishment, and then they use that as evidence, you know, that, hey, the swamp is coming to get me. And so I think whenever things like this happen, everybody hesitates because they don't want to make it worse. And so that's part of what I think is going on. Overall in Missouri, there's a massive effort away of people trying to figure out how to stop Greitens from getting this nomination with 30% of the vote. That's what's happening, and nobody wants to mess up the plan to try to get this thing for somebody else.
Scott, Max, thank you very much. I appreciate it. We're going to talk about high gas prices, and the White House knows it. What Joe Biden's saying he's going to do about it, that's next.
What do you see when you look at the surface? Just that, the surface. But dive deeper and new possibilities emerge. Essential intelligence from S&P Global takes you here, providing the data, risk assessment, and workflow solutions you need to plumb the wonders beneath. A better, more prosperous future awaits. It's yours for the seeking. S&P Global. Seek and prosper.
The phrase simple but elegant perfectly describes any Calatrava, and any Calatrava shows what Patek can do with very little.
The first version of the Calatrava was launched in 1932, and the Patek Calatrava was inspired by the Bauhaus design principle, and we can see that in the most vintage and the most modern Patek Calatravas in the lineup.
Another point is, the visible parts of the watch, the case, the lugs, the hands, are all exquisitely finished. By finish, I mean the hours a craftsperson spends polishing those parts.
The Patek line of watches, and specifically the Calatrava, is a simple and elegant designed watch that is definitely most certainly timeless, and I think it embodies the saying that they have that you never really own a Patek, you merely look after it and kind of take care of it for the next generation.
As the sun sets in Seoul and Shanghai, deals are signed in Dubai, and Europe is already in play. New York prepares to make its first move. I'm Julia Chatterley, host of CNN's First Move. I'll speak to newsmakers, risk takers, and the ultimate game changers.
Bold moves, big deals, winning trades. It's all right here. Make CNN your first move.
First Move with Julia Chatterley today.
Afghan women are afraid that this is the beginning of your efforts to erase them from the workspace.
It's not clear. Even if we appear with the burqa, maybe they will say that women's voices are forbidden.
Did you ever imagine that you would be prevented from going to school?
Girls' education is fundamental to the dignity of Afghan life.
Do you believe that young girls will be allowed to go to school here in Afghanistan?